You're watching MMA Oddsbreaker. I'm Frank Trigg. Of course, that's Brian Stann. Been trying to get hold of Brian for a while because it interests me in life after fighting. And obviously, we all know Brian's been doing very well on Fox Sports and everything else. He's been all over the world, all over the country. He's been going crazy with the UFC still. Is this tougher, Brian, than actually being in training camp? Because your schedule, you're away from your kids almost as much.
Well, for me, I'm not away from the kids as much when you compare to doing my camps in Albuquerque. When I would do my training camps in Albuquerque, I'd probably be away from my kids a total of 5 to 6 weeks during the entire camp because I would bring them with me. I would fly home every other weekend. So I'd spend a lot of money to still be involved in family life. And, the good thing is with the TV work is I can choose. So my deal with Zuffa, they call me and say, hey, do you want to do this card? I can say yes or no. So there's nothing where they call me and say, hey, we need you these, and these dates. I can, build it so that I'm only gone 2 weekends a month is what I try to do.
Okay.
So it's a fortunate thing, TV work in comparison to being a Marine Corps officer, in comparison to my day job, running Hired Heroes USA, in comparison to being a fighter. It's a lot of fun. It requires me to do a lot of prep work, but my prep work is watching football games, studying players, watching fighters, and talking to coaches. I mean, I love those two sports, so it's a lot of fun. So I'm very blessed to be able to doing it. At one point, somebody's going to realize I'm an imposter, and I won't be able to do it anymore, but I will ride that wave as long as I can.
Well, it's from a fan standpoint, I'm very happy how good you are on camera. It's good to have a competitor, high-level competitor, understands the game, and can be able to talk about it in a very intellectual manner. There's very few of us around that can do that. As a competitor, I'm pissed off because you do it so well because it's one less job that I can get. Like I want to be mad at you, but every time I watch you on TV, I'm like, it's Brian. Like, he's doing so good. I gotta text him and tell him, like, dude, you're amazing. I can't believe it because you have a presence on camera that really resonates with the fans. Plus, you're smart. Plus, the fact that you are a Marine Corps officer, you understand. You've been in the heat of battle. There's nothing that's gonna frazzle you on set. No one's throwing a grenade at you. No one's trying to shoot you while you're sitting in your shirt and tie. You're like, my worst day is Kenny Florian picking on me. My worst day is Jay Glazer yelling at me. Like, who cares? I'm good. So you have a presence that's amazing, absolutely amazing.
Well, it's in all honesty, it's hard to consider it work. You get
Our
treated
families
real
think
well.
we actually work. Don't let it out of the bag. Don't tell people this isn't really work. This is very hard work.
It's really tough, guys. It's really tough. The hardest thing about it is we all know it's very competitive, and when people like you, there's a time. But as human beings, we get used to things, and so when someone gets really used to you over time, they may not like you as much a year or two later. And there's always someone else trying to get into that industry and do that. So it's very similar to fighting, where you can't say, this is what I'm going to do for the next 20 years. You've always got to have a plan B all the time. And that's something that I did while I was fighting. The entire time that I fought, I had a full-time job.
And that's your charity work, right?
Yeah.
And now that's your full-time job, but it's a charity-driven nonprofit. How are you able to provide for your family off that? You taking a salary out because you're the head of the company, or okay?
So I mean, it's a not-for-profit company that helps veterans get jobs before they get out or when they're already out. And so I report to a board of directors who appointed me as the chief executive officer. When I took the job, I was executive director. And so you'll absolutely, like any not-for-profit, the NFL is a not-for-profit. You will pull a salary. Now you're never going to get wealthy off anything like that. But
let's not forget, Brian, the United Way is a not-for-profit as well. And there was rumors, years ago that the president of the United Way is pulling in $6 million a year, but it was a piece of what he raised overall. It was worth it because he raised so much money. Is that the same kind of situation for you? If you raise $100 million, you'll get a bonus because of that?
Well, my compensation, my bonus at the end of the year is tied to how much I raise. But it's capped at a certain amount because I bring in, literally just a couple weeks ago, we signed the dotted line on a $3.9 million grant. I'm not getting a piece of a $3.9 million grant. That's going to be way too much money. So my compensation, if I pull in and I meet all the requirements of my board of directors, then I can get my full bonus, which is a percentage of my salary. So that's how that works. And realistically, my board saw this early on. By paralleling my UFC career to my business career, running this not-for-profit, I was able to leverage a ton of media from my fight career. I fought on Memorial Day. We got so much media and donations during that time. The relationship with Fox has helped tremendously, and that's all helped us as a small charity. When I started, we had 4 people to grow into now we have over 40 and 6 different locations nationwide. We've grown a lot because we get a lot of attention that a small not-for-profit would never get. We've gotten a ton of free exposure, not only on who we are and what we do. That's all. Anybody can say, hey, we do great things. But we can actually demonstrate. We can show that, hey, we average 16 and a half veterans a week that get jobs because of our help, and nobody else can do that. But you've got to have an outlet to tell people, and I've had that outlet. It helps.
Now, it happened to Mike Goldberg. He was doing ACC basketball and doing hockey and UFC all at the same time, and finally UFC said, look, you got to make a choice. If somebody comes in and goes, look, you got to make a choice. You got football or you got MMA. Is there one that you would go to more so than the other one just because you were forced to make a choice between the two?
Yeah, if I was forced to make a choice right now, it would be fighting. I love football. Love it. It was my first love. I played it my entire life, and it's a lot of fun to cover. But obviously, the UFC, mixed martial arts is part of who I am. And calling a game is awesome, but calling fights is my favorite thing to do. I love having the opportunity to take the fan and show them what goes on in our heads, in our bodies when we have to go out there and compete. They can never understand what it's like for us to make that walk down that tunnel and out into that arena and put it all together at one moment. It is so difficult. And so that's my favorite thing to do. And it's the more, I could do that year long where football is only one season. So there's certainly your typical things you're going to weigh in making a decision like that. Hey, I have the means to make more money because I could do more events per year doing this. I would love to do both as long as I can. I think it's better, and a lot of the UFC staff believes it's better for them that I do college football as well. It's good for their brand to have me also, doing college football.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why a lot of times when I first worked for Fox Sports, they had me doing Pride, but they also had me doing women's boxing because they wanted to make get not only you get more repetition in front of the camera when I first started, but also too it does build the brand up of look, this guy's over here boxing, he's also doing MMA and vice versa. So a lot of fans are following you on ACC football are now transferring over and watching you on MMA as well. So it makes sense. It is a difficult task, and there's only 52 weeks in a year. You can only work so many football games because there's only so many games in a season. During that time of football, does it get really hectic where you got a Friday night game and you got to jump immediately and go and do a UFC the next night in a different city? Have you had those problems yet?
No. They pretty much can't book me during football season, and the UFC is not really excited about that. But the thing is, this is where I pick and choose my dates. The UFC, even though I get more dates over the course of a year with them, they can't give me consistent work for a whole season. Where my football package is 14 games, 14 straight weekends. I'm going to go do games. Where it gets tough is when I have a Wednesday night fight. And that's happened there was a fight for the troops where, I did a game, I got home Sunday. Tuesday I go up, I do a weigh-in show. Then Friday I leave and go do another game. That's where it gets a little tricky, but it's really not that hard. The hard part is, I'm going to work, I'm doing a day job too. That's where it gets difficult. So my schedule will generally be I'm in the office all day. Once I get my kids down at night, if I have an event, that's when I'll do my prep work for an event. So around 8:30, 9 o'clock, I'll pop in DVDs of football or fighting, start taking my notes, and do some of that, from basically 9 till midnight, then go to bed and do it all over again.
What time do you normally get up now? Are you still in that military time where 6 a.m. you're still banging out of bed?
6, yeah. I really don't like sleeping that much past 7. Even when I'm on the road and I can sleep in, I like to be up and in the gym by 7:30 at the latest.
One of the things that Tim Kennedy did, or does still actually, is after his fights, he does an after-action report. And that's obviously from the military where we went, we did the mission, we came home, let's figure out what we did right, let's figure out what we did wrong, let's get better the next time. Did you do that during your career too? You'd come back and sit down with your coaches and do a complete and full after-action report?
Oh, yeah. every time. I wouldn't type it out, but it was something where definitely would do it. And I would even do because when I started doing this, I was so bad when I was in the WEC. In fact, I remember there was a training session, Extreme Couture, and I had taken leave for 3 days to go out to Vegas and get real training. And we would do, Extreme Couture used to do, you do new guys every minute on you for 3 5-minute rounds. And it was me, you, and Forrest Griffin. And Forrest was laughing at me so bad because I was so bad and I couldn't do anything that it was making me so mad. I literally wanted to punch him in the face, but I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get up. Couldn't stop a takedown. I mean, I was basically a bag for you two that day. So for me to catch up as quickly as I needed to, I would have to do my training camps a little different. I couldn't just go in and do the regular workouts with the guys. I had to basically say, hey, look, here's my opponent. This is the only way I can beat him. Here's the things I need to learn how to do to beat him, and here's the areas that are necessary that I have to learn by that. I've got to be able to defend a single leg. Don't worry about all these other things. This guy primarily should. Let's worry about defending a single leg for right now. I need at least one get up off my back, and I need to improve on this and just focus on those things, and then go on to the next. After fights, I'd go right back to the gym and I would train everything. That was my time to catch up. I could never stop training. But then when the fight came up again, it had to be very specific down to the week where, hey, this week I've got to learn what butterfly guard is. This week I need to work on getting out of half guard because I'm getting stuck there all the time and I can't get up.
All right, that makes complete sense. And now, is that what you do also? Do you go home and watch your broadcast afterwards and go, look, this is what I said, this is what we did. Here's what the show looked like. This is what I did right. This is what I did wrong. Or does Craig or somebody sit down with you and go, look, try to, we do this, do that, or whatever? Like, do you have another scenario of an after-action report, even with broadcasting?
Oh, yeah. I don't go back and watch it personally because what I've found is I'm so critical of myself that I'll cause myself to feel bad about the work I just did. So someone will tell me, hey, you did great. Then I'll go back and watch it, and I'll feel like I did terrible. Right. And it kind of ruins my mood at home, and that doesn't do me any good. Now, every time I do a football game, I would have 4 different people email me a breakdown by quarter of everything I did right and wrong. And that's a lot of after action. For fights, I'll still have a call with the UFC producers generally after every show, and I'll sit down with the Fox guys right after the show, and they go through everything that they want to see. Hey, Brian, I like how you do this, but when you're going to make an opinion here, I need you to make it stronger. Or, look, I know you don't like to pick, but people want to see you pick who you think is going to win. Tell them, and different things like that you get coached on time and time again. My biggest weakness doing TV was I'm so used to the Marine Corps where you have to be extraordinarily calm when you come over the radio in a firefight. You got to sound like you're walking through the grocery store, even though you're getting shot at and blown up. And so I'll be doing these fights and I'll break something down in the same tone that I'm talking to you right now, and that doesn't get people excited. That doesn't make for good TV.
Right. All of us have our little hicks. Mine is I get excited. I have a really bad speech impediment that I've really got to be concentrate on. When I get excited, it pops out, and I start mumbling and running really, really fast and running high energy. So they have to go to me. Look, you got to slow down. You got to keep your energy up, but then slow it down. For you, it's the opposite. They you keep your articulation, but you got to ramp it up. It's just
I consume about 200 milligrams of caffeine every time.
I got to back off about 3 hours before I have to stop the caffeine. Oh, it sucks when you're overseas and you're on jet lag. You're like, I need something to stay awake. But if I drink caffeine, no one at home's going to understand me. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do. Oh, it's horrible. So, well, Brian, thanks for coming out here. I appreciate it. I know you're busy. I know you got to get back to your day job. I would like to call you up from time to time and hit you up on main event, co-main event, and get your feelings of how you see some of these fights breaking down in the future, just for a couple minutes and kind of see, this fight's going to happen this way. This is how I see it, because you do have a great intellectual opinion about how these fights go. And I've actually kind of figured out that you're about 80% correct whenever you pull these fights off. So from a betting standpoint, I also want to use it so I can make better bets.
You got it, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brian. I'll talk to you soon, bud.
My pleasure. See you, buddy.